Our next game is number 7, Alabama versus number 11, Tennessee at 3:30 p.m. Both teams having a strugglesome week this past week. Actually, a strugglesome past 2 weeks.
Yeah, really.
Both being upset 2 weeks ago, and then this past week coming off of close, hold your breath type wins. We're not going to go into that because that's a whole other story.
Good Lord. If South Carolina had any type of kicker, bro.
Sellers sold.
Hashtag sellers sold. Anyway.
But, Tennessee, we're learning that their quarterback is still young.
Yeah.
He is still learning how to make mature plays.
He's a stud.
He's a stud.
But he's young.
He is very young, and their offensive line hasn't been helping that much.
Nope.
Their defense is actually what's holding them in games, which is impressive for a Tennessee team. Meanwhile, Alabama, 2 weeks ago, their defense was not the thing holding them within the game.
Not even 2 weeks ago. Even this past week, dude.
Yeah, this past week, they were a little bit better this past week.
I think this is why Georgia's bad, because I really don't know how we lost those jokers. I really don't. I mean, it's easy when you turn the ball over 3 times in your own end zone. Or it's easy when you turn the ball over 3 times in your own territory. I mean, that definitely makes it easy. But still, how did we lose to these jokers?
So Jalen Milroe having a tough 2 weeks. Turnovers.
Safeties.
Interceptions. Just stupid mistakes happening on both ends for this game, Alabama and Tennessee. So both teams are trying to prove themselves going into this game, saying, hey, we belong here. We belong at the top of the SEC. And not only that, we belong at the top of the college football playoff rankings when they come out soon. The ESPN FPI has Alabama at 54% and the spread having Bama at -2.5. Mason, you are first to pick.
No. I really don't know, man. Of course, everything in me wants to lean Bama, but then everything in me also wants to lean Tennessee because you've got Alabama, who's been a little bit fraudulent since the Georgia game. I truly believe that either Georgia is that bad or Alabama just got lucky with all the turnovers because they played. That was their best game of the year by far. They struggled against USF, and the score definitely does not reflect that, as they scored like 3 touchdowns in the last 3 minutes of the game. Wisconsin, Tyler Van Dyke went out on the first drive, and then they come out, and I think that they were just ready for us. I think that was a statement win that Kalen DeBoer had to get, and he got it. And then he comes out the next week and loses to Vanderbilt, and he almost loses to South Carolina, who didn't even score a touchdown against Ole Miss. So if that tells you anything, it kind of seems like Ole Miss's defense is better than Alabama's, which is not something I was expecting this year. Yep. Because yes, did they lose to Kentucky, but their defense kind of held them in there. So, but then you have Tennessee, who they have the struggle loss to Arkansas, and then they have the struggle win against Florida. Now, both of these teams know that they're not going to underestimate each other. Alabama's not going to underestimate the offensive firepower that Nico has. But Tennessee's not going to underestimate the defense because the defense has shown a little bit. They're not great. They're really not. This is a weak point for Alabama. But they're good enough to make some plays and win some games. So I don't think that either one of them is going to underestimate anything. And honestly, I kind of think that South Carolina last week for Bama and Florida last week for Tennessee may have been a little bit of a trap game, because they know that they're going to have to come in here and play a perfect game. With the game being in Neyland Stadium, that is going to be tough for Alabama. However, their offense plays pretty well. But Tennessee's defense, man, they've proven me. So give me Tennessee, bro. I'm not confident in it at all, but I think with the way that their defense has played this year and kept them in games, if Nico can find a way to get over the hump and make smart plays, Tennessee's going to win this game. I like Tennessee by a field goal. This is not a close game. I think this is a punch-for-punch game. Give me Tennessee by a field goal.
Yeah, this one's tough. This is
absolutely it's
this
tough.
was number 2 in our choices for game of the week.
Yep. Because this is always a classic game, or at least it has been the past couple of years.
Yeah. Tennessee versus Alabama or Tennessee versus Georgia. It's always a good game. So coming into this game, some things I took out of the past couple weeks was Tennessee struggles when a very athletic quarterback is playing. Lagway played very well against Tennessee. Lagway, he's not there yet.
Right.
He's young, he's new, he's learning. And the Florida offense is just not typically good. And then Arkansas with Taylon Green, I mean, he was lighting up the Tennessee defense.
And then even when he went out at the end, the other quarterback, who was also extremely mobile, he went down in the field on them too.
And the thing about it is Jalen Milroe is better than all three of them.
Yep.
And he has a young man named Ryan Williams.
I think Kirby called Jalen Milroe an extremely good running back with an arm.
Yeah. That's pretty accurate. I remember hearing something too where Jalen Milroe doesn't typically throw in the middle of the field. He typically goes on the outsides, which is very interesting to me. How does that always win? It's crazy. But that's besides the point.
Because you have the speed of Ryan Williams, that's why.
Now, with Alabama, I'm going to take away from the South Carolina game. When there's a good defensive front, Jalen Milroe struggles. That offensive line struggles. Offense can't produce. The run game's not there. It's a dogfight at that point, and they're just fighting for field goals and just getting first downs, which was very interesting to me, especially going into a Tennessee game where they have a potential, not even potential, most likely a first-round pick in Pierce, who is absolutely incredible and really is what sealed the game who helped seal the game against Florida.
Right.
He stepped up when he needed to step up the most. He was quiet most of the game. When it really mattered, he stepped up. Can he make Jalen Milroe make mistakes like he has the past couple of weeks? I think he can, but I think when it comes down to a war of attrition, I think Alabama has more under their belt than Tennessee does. I think I think if Alabama loses this, DeBoer is going to be looked at a little differently.
I said at the beginning of the season, we were going over the preseason, ideas. I said Kalen DeBoer's on the hot seat at Alabama already.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because this is Alabama.
They're judging the way he's dressed.
Yeah.
I mean, like
this, Kalen DeBoer is already on the hot seat. Losing to Vanderbilt, that definitely put him on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Because this is Alabama. Now I don't know really, realistically, I don't know any coach out there right now that would leave their program to come to Alabama that's better coach than him. He's got a great coaching record overall. Took Washington to the national championship last year. He's not a bad coach.
Oh. He's a different coach.
But that was a game losing to Vanderbilt. That was not good. Not good for him. That was not in his favor to lose to Vanderbilt.
He's a different coach from Nick Saban, which I think is what immediately put him in the hot seat. Yes. He's more offensive minded. Meanwhile, Nick Saban has always been a defensive minded coach, and offense comes second. And granted, that towards the end of Nick Saban's career is when offense started taking that forefront, but the defense was still there. The trend, though, right now is Alabama is losing their defense. Their defensive players are getting frustrated with some, play calls and stuff like that, as we saw at the end of the Vanderbilt game.
Yep.
But again, I have to pick Bama here. It's a tough pick. This week is probably going to be just like this past weekend where I have two games where I'm the only one picking a team, and it's going to be a close game and not in my favor.
I said, this is going to be a blow-for-blow game.
Yeah.
This is important for Josh Heupel because he's already got one loss. This is important for Kalen DeBoer because he's already got one loss. Mm-hmm. Tennessee needs this win to prove who they are, as a team, that they can make a playoff game, that they can beat Alabama consistently. I mean, and Josh Heupel, he knows how to beat Alabama. He's already done it once. Mm-hmm. 2022, he did it.
Yeah.
He had a high-powered, experienced quarterback, but he did
doesn't
it
this year. So
we'll see how we'll see. But we know that Josh Heupel can do it. Mm-hmm. But can Kalen DeBoer come into the SEC, and can he win this big-time matchup against Tennessee at Neyland Stadium?
Yeah.
Because this is going to be really, so far out of the season, this is going to be Kalen DeBoer's biggest road game so far. He's never been to Neyland Stadium.
No.
He hasn't been anywhere else. He had his biggest game of the year against Georgia at home. That was really fortunate. Now he's got to go to Neyland.
I think if Alabama wins this game, though, they have two of the most impressive wins in the season. in college football. So
I don't know, with the way Georgia's been playing.
With the way Georgia's been playing is questionable. But arguably, they have the 2 most impressive wins of college football if they come out with a win in this game, which is weird because they will have the 2 most impressive wins, but the most
impressive loss of the century,
worst loss
Sorry,
in Alabama history. Like it. What other head coach can do that other than Kalen DeBoer?
I mean, Nick Saban lost to UL Monroe, but dang it, dude, this is Vanderbilt.
Yeah, like Vanderbilt. What? They never beat Alabama.
They haven't beat Alabama. They hadn't beat Alabama since 1984, and they'd never beat a top 5 team. Ever.
They were like 0-63
against top 5 teams. Yep.
Now they're 1-63.
So this one will definitely be an interesting game.
Yeah.
And we're definitely excited to see who wins it.
Mm-hmm.